We recently got very close of hitting 1500 in Blitz, which is placing us in the 95 percentile on chess.com, the most competitive website on the planet because all the top players are around. Now, I know what you may be thinking. In order to achieve this level of mastery, you probably need to be like a weird 40 years old virgin that's still living with his parents. Well, allow me to contradict you. I'm only 23, and I can also tell you that it's way easier than most people think if you're doing it the right way. So, let me walk you through the only opening that I used with the black pieces in order to reach this rating. Statistically speaking, most of your opponents are going to be playing e4, opening up with the king's pawn, and I recommend that you go for c6, which is the starting position of the Caro-Kann. Typically, white will go ahead and play the move d4. If they do anything else, it will transpose to the other big lines that we are about to mention. Black is playing the move d5, and now white is at a crossroads where they basically have four big options. So starting with knight c3, the so-called classical variation, they can also play the advance, the exchange, which is very common for low-rated games, and last but not least, they can be playing the fantasy variation. So by only understanding four variations, you're basically set for life with the black pieces against e4, and you will be able to crush 95% of your opponents, which is basically, if you think of it as a basketball player that has simply mastered the art of scoring 3 pointers. It is simply beautiful. Your opponents cannot do anything but watch in despair. So in today's video, I'm gonna be walking you through my thinking process as an international master, highlighting typical mistakes that low-rated players make. So please feel free to use the timestamps from the description, pick what you need, and let's get started. Alright everybody, getting to face another 1600 opponent. Let's see what he has in mind against our beloved Caro-Kann, and it looks like it's the second move f4 sideline, which is basically very similar to what we're gonna be getting from the advanced variation. Therefore, against the advanced, we play c5, knight c6, doing the uh, very same thing here. And when the knight is already committed to f3, we like playing bishop g4. By the way, quick side note, I noticed most people that are just picking up the Caro-Kann makes a lot of value in this position by playing the move bishop to f5, simply because, well, you can get this c5 and improved version of getting the bishop in. Also, when they play c3, it's a sign that they're interested into playing with d4, which is definitely gonna be very nice for us. Same idea as against the advance, just getting the knight to f5. Always meeting h3 with takes. Okay, he plays d3, he's slowing down. d4 would have been way worse because we can just pretty much win the pawn by force after like takes, cd, and then knight f5. And he's lacking the usual bishop e3 because the bishop's no longer protected by the pawn. d3, just playing knight f5, typical move. h3 we can take. h3 maybe also could be interesting to play like h5. Not gonna do it though. That's usually pretty loose, and it's not, we only play it when it's like obviously good. Plays knight a3, that's actually making me wonder. Maybe we can try out c4. I really want to do it just because on dc there is check. And yeah, on knight c2 there's idea of takes and check. Point was if he played d4 after c4. I mean, bishop takes on a3. I assume this is good for us somehow. On knight c2, if we check, he wants d4. So point is take and then check. Developing with tempo. And the big point is that on king h1, we haven't castled yet. So we can utilize this idea. And just imagine play h4, knight g3. That is checkmate. Already have a huge threat of knight g3, by the way. Damn it, that should have been an exercise for you. But is it actually a huge threat? I think we're not threatening it yet because on h4 he had bishop e3 because the knight's well placed. So just gonna have to wait with that a little. Just gonna sidestep his move, and h4 knight g3. That's where he's at, basically. If he plays a5, just gets mated, has to eliminate the knight, which is just, it's basically think of the f5 knight this way. You're having a bag of Skittles and, just eating one of them can potentially kill you. Now, are you gonna touch the goddamn bag of Skittles? I think not, so yeah, just get rid of it. Opponent took the wrong Skittle by playing the move a5, which just allows checkmate on the board. And I mean, literally, you can use such simple and basic mating ideas to absolutely destroy 1600 players in Blitz. Once again, reminding you that's kind of like the equivalent of somebody that's 1900 in Rapid. So, I mean, just play the theory, go for like the solid moves, and there is really no rocket science. They will play poorly. They will play better at times. Okay, I think like some of these games, some of my opponents maybe underperform a little for some reason. I guess it's like normal for anybody. But even when they play better, it's not like they play in a way that's sort of unbeatable. It's like definitely very manageable. You still need to make like 3-4 big mistakes in order to get punished. So that's the beauty of playing this rating range. So critical mistake of this game, definitely not taking. That was bad. You should have taken, and okay, position is pretty unbalanced. I guess white can actually be slightly better here because I'm not gonna have a huge attack anymore, and he can like just play bishop e3, maybe a5, bishop e3, and it's got a bit of space. But I mainly went for this to show you like the instructive pattern. There is clearly nothing wrong with what I believe to be the easiest and best objective play on knight a3, which is bishop e7 castle, h3 answered by bishop f3, and then go like rook c8, a6, b5, played slower with queenside play. But at least I hope you enjoy this kind of fun little idea that literally can happen all the time against the f4 sideline. So make sure to keep that in mind, and remember, do not rush to put your bishop on f5. Be a smart player, go c5, bring the knight, and then do the bishop in if possible. So with that being said, I think we can move on to the following game. Right, everybody, getting the black pieces, gonna be trying out the Caro-Kann. And opponent plays central strategy so far, gonna be going d5, and we do get to face the classical variation where, of course, we are most of the times gonna be going for d4 and knight f6 going for the Tartakov. If you're looking for a sort of a cheeky idea, kind of a sideline that is easier to play maybe and doesn't require that much fury and could lead to fun positions, you could definitely give a6 a try with the idea to wait for knight f3 so that you can play the move bishop to g4. It is something that even Magnus Carlsen has played himself in rapid time control, so I have a video about that which you can check out if you're interested into this variation. But yeah, we're not gonna be doing that here. Obviously, we're serious guys, and we're just gonna be going for the established path. And basically, the goal of this is just to checkmate my opponent now, because we are playing the Tartakov structure. We do have basically worse endgame since we got this pawns 3 against 4, where white has an edge if we trade more pieces. But yeah, our kind of argument here is that, well, we will be having a little bit of a safer king thanks to this pawn. So go for a kingside attack. Main mistake lower rated players make while playing the Tartakov. They just go ahead, play c5, play on the side where white has better control. So don't play on your weaker side, try to play on your weaknesses. Sounds pretty obvious, but you have no idea how many people go wrong on this. Bishop to e3, it's now pretty easy to go for the premature attaculation by playing the move bishop to f4. While opponent can just defend. If you take, he takes back with a pawn. It's like nothing clear. Normally, I just like to ignore that, and I'm just gonna go knight d7. Preparing typical maneuver, bringing the knight to f8. Now, you may be wondering, all right, Alex, everybody plays knight f8, but I simply don't get it. How can a knight be well placed when it's basically on such a passive looking square? I don't get this move, and I'm just gonna quit the Caro-Kann and unsubscribe to the channel. Now, before you do that, let me explain. The knight on f8 is just very good because it is not hurting your position, okay? Some variations in chess are pretty sensible, and it is quite difficult to find squares for your pieces. Therefore, oftentimes we just decide, all right, let me pick the lesser evil, and that can lead to the best place or the best move in a lot of positions. So, hope that makes it a little bit more clear. Plus, the knight has long-term prospect, maneuvering around. However, okay, I'm actually gonna start with this move, playing knight g6. And then, typical idea that you really want to remember about the Tartaglia structure, we can go bishop c7, queen d6. And we only do this when you have this pawn structure. Because what I noticed whenever I introduce this idea to lower rated players, then they fall in love with the fact that they can checkmate so quickly, and they just try it every single time. Well, it's not gonna be optimal. So really do this only when you have the Tartaglia. Now, opponent kind of spoiled my idea of going for the checkmate. If I still wanted to be stubborn, I could have gone for an inferior move, still trying to play the battery. Bishop c7 is best. And now, once they make this super committal move, it's like c5. He's basically weakened for the rest of the game. Now look at this d4 pawn. It is basically a pawn that cannot be protected by other pawns, and it's free for us to attack because we got the open file. So I like to think of this as a turtle that's fallen on its back. We just play around it, and either we're gonna win it, or perhaps we're gonna show another pretty interesting idea that is still quite typical for the Tartaglia structure. Now, to understand why opponent played queen d2, he was actually really scared of us potentially jumping with a knight. So he did queen d2 in order to stop that, just going bishop e6, getting good control over this square. And just for those of you that want to take it as an exercise, you can try to pause the video and think what could potentially be our next move. Because we've got like sort of a choice between a number of tempting options. So please go ahead, take your time and try to come up with a plan. And I think here, even though we have such a nice position that many plans are viable, if you were thinking, okay, bishop e6, that bishop looks pretty juicy on the d5 square. Well, you're kind of right on that, but you deserve the wooden spoon. That is not the best move, but it is something very viable. I think the better move is going queen d7, even though with rook e1, he will get the option of playing bishop to f1. This idea is like super instructive. If we could get the bishop sack, especially, yeah, in this kind of formation, that is usually going to be leading to a deadly attack. Now, he definitely has to play the move bishop to f1, where once again we get a bunch of tempting continuations. I feel like this time sticking to bishop to d5 may be best. Another tempting idea that I am considering would be to try to make use of this double pawn by going f5, f4, potentially trapping the bishop on e3. So that is also a plan that you wanna keep an eye on. For now, we're just prioritizing queen d7 because, well, as you probably already know, checkmate ends the game. So getting a checkmate would definitely be something pretty satisfying here. And very likely if he doesn't play bishop f1. Yeah, I feel like a lot of the white players will typically underestimate black's attack. Not this guy, he definitely knows what's up. Plays bishop to f1. Okay, we gotta respect that. That's a good move played by my opponent. I can start with bishop d5. And I am kind of expecting queen e2. However, I feel like queen d1 is a better move. Now, taking on f3 is just a huge positional threat. So he just plays queen d1. If he had to take with a pawn, he's basically lost with his weakened kingside pawns. And all right, now the f5 plan is kind of less appealing since it's no longer threatening to trap the bishop as he just created a square. I can just improve, like my position, bringing a rook. I can double up. Many plans are very interesting. Another kind of cute idea could be to play h5, which I don't think is very standard, but I'm gonna play and I'm gonna explain also. Point is, I want to get pawn to h4. This is a bit of like a situational case. It's just that we have such a good position, we afford to do a lot of things. Point is, I want to get pawn to h4. I want to bring the rook. I want to move bishop back. Okay, never mind. He plays knight h2. We think like 10 moves ahead while opponent just blunders in one move. That's typically the way chess works. So you're not alone. But yeah, still gonna do this move. Whole point is I'm trying to set up battery so that with the pawn on h4, he cannot kill the battery with g3 because we just take and then we get this really deadly and devastating attack. Now I feel like queen g4 is a good practical try for my opponent because he wants an endgame, but yeah, we're saying no to endgame. Remember, Tartakover, fuck endgames. We don't do that here. Just play rook d8, bishop b8, bring the queen. And hopefully we're gonna get a checkmate with that. Oh, actually, by the way, his queen is like almost trapped. Which is pretty hilarious, but he does find that square, which is reasonable. We'll give him that. Now I can also double up, play rook e6. So many moves, so little time. Just gonna play rook d8. I feel like we don't get increment for this game because, okay, by the way, I think rook c8 could have been a little bit more clever. I feel like maybe this move is now a little annoying. So rook c8 would have kind of served the same goal. Decent enough. He's attacking this pawn. Yeah, I can stick with like easy move, bishop e4, take with the rook. All of his pieces are basically quite passive and gotta watch out for this threat and we should be Gucci. Gonna do this. He trades, gonna take with a queen. Okay, let me do that. Let me panic now. Oh, free queen. Let's take that. Oops. 3 seconds. Let's not panic. Let's give check. Oops, he blundered that. Okay, check again. And oh, all right, got him. 2 seconds. No way near. But we did make some mistakes, apparently, according to the chess.com thing. Let me actually just have a quick look. I mean, I obviously had a few seconds there at the end, but main thing that I'm curious about is this bishop d5 idea and h5. So I feel like h5 could have potentially turned really instructive. I'm just gonna like show you the point and then I think we can move on because this is like really the kind of only sort of controversial idea, I would say. So point was he actually found some really interesting counter-attacking moves. I feel like opponents in this rating range around like 1400 will be defending way worse in general. But let's just say he plays some nonsense. Yeah, like queen d2, you play rook d8, he goes like rook d1, whatever. And we play bishop b8. He does b4, that's his stuff. And now we play queen c7. And here you get to see why this h pawn really starts to shine. We are creating a mating threat. While his main idea, g3, we can just take. Because if you think about it, do this in the first place, yeah, just do this plan. He does kind of whatever, same fashion. He will easily block this with g3. Typically, that's what's gonna happen. So if you compare it with the other position, g3 now is less appealing because of takes. So just because he did commit with this c5 move, which is just kind of like a positional suicide when he plays c5. It's like the type of move, you know, it's like you finally decide to take action and text your crush for the first time. You're like feeling good in the first second, but yeah, like 5 minutes later, you just realize she lets you on scene, and you're like, man, why did I do that? I'm just like very silly. Let me unfollow. So he plays c5. He realizes, oh, that was a little bit too risky. Shouldn't have done that. Bishop c7 now. Damage has been already done. Look at him. Look at his position. Weak square. Weak pawn on d4. Then we can do whatever. We can play around. We can even take this kind of attacking ideas. And by the way, just for those of you that didn't see the bishop sacrifice coming, typically something like this just ends the game. Because the knight is under attack, and in case they play bishop e2, there is rook e4. That's usually just kind of ending the game with a mating construction. So yeah, I think that's basically those are the main ideas to take away from this. And with that being said, we can really move on to the following game. All right, everybody, looks like we managed to get another card game, and let's see what opponent has in mind. I'll be going d5, and we do get to see more advance within this rating range of 1400-1500, it feels like. So I'm gonna be sticking with c5, my favorite move by far. You can make a case for playing bishop to f5, but in case you're not planning to battle Ding Liren for the World Championship match, I think you're gonna be okay with c5. So going for this move, white plays c3, which is by far the most common answer. Just gonna go knight c6, and typically knight f3 or bishop b5 are the most common moves. Important that on bishop b5 there we have queen a5, but on knight f3 important to start with takes. It's not like a huge mistake to go bishop g4 immediately, with which I know a lot of people are guilty of making, but taking is the best move order first, because we're avoiding DC. Basically, you do bishop g4 in this position, he's got DC ideas. That still will transpose to other lines, but are like definitely playable. So bishop e2, this is main move that I expected to face, and now we get to face pretty strange a3. What you need to know in this line is that, well, the knight doesn't have the natural square f6, therefore this is the reason why we develop it to e7. Knight h6 would be pretty dubious, allowing bishop takes. And the point is that the whole battleground goes around this pawn on d4. So knight is going towards f5. And typically, from my experience, I noticed a lot of people deal with this b4 by panicking, playing a6. While, in fact, you can make a bit of a stronger threat, which could be knight f5 here. Point being, on b5, we want bishop takes on f3, and then knight takes on d4. Gotta double check if that works, but seems to be alright to me. Like b5, we take, bc, bishop takes on e2. So basically trading and then picking up the pawn. At least, maybe there's even knight d4 intermediate move in that position. Opponent overprotects d4, which is reasonable move. Maybe b5 ideas now. Yeah, normal move would be bishop to e7, b5, knight a5, looks comfortable. So no need to worry about that one for now. If h3, we always grab on f3 against the advance. King castle or play rook c8. Both moves are definitely very sensible. Maybe actually this is something I could have done instead of bishop e7. Yeah, I can start targeting the d4 pawn immediately. An opponent does not have a way to defend, which means we simply won the battle over the d4 square. Now, usually this is a pretty important battle, so we might even go ahead and claim that this is gonna win us the game. I'm not rushing to take the pawn simply because he has no way of, defending it. So I'm letting him suffer a bit. Plays bishop g4. I think now that bishop takes on f5 becomes a pretty huge positional threat, it is time to take. Now, interestingly enough, I could have taken with the other knight as well, but I think this one should be fine. Keeping ideas of perhaps taking at some point, actually even now, because on the previous move, this was not a thing, because knight would have remained hanging. But knight e2, this becomes a thing, since his queen is no longer attacking d4. Threatening this, and then the knight will have a safe spot back. I meant to show the other one. Plays queen e2. Now we enter this phase of the game where we basically just wanna trade all the pieces and win because we have 2 extra pawns. Only move to take this way, because queen takes g4 would have allowed queen takes on d2. Then pawn takes, just gonna go maybe rook c8, maybe bishop f6, putting pressure on the rook. These are the moves that I'm considering. I feel like this is pretty natural. Cannot play knight f3 because one will be hanging. Yeah, typically now, whenever you can infiltrate and pin, it is gonna probably be the best move. So gonna continue to double up. Doesn't have like a great discovery. This just drops the pawn, as I mean, I could have taken it already on the previous move. But yeah, keep in mind that I'm always prioritizing piece activity. Maybe 95 will get played. Seems to be queen e3, targeting a7. Not really that big of a problem. I'm gonna go rook c3. Saying, okay, if you want the pawn, you can have it. I had a little bit of a cheeky trap there, which he did not allow, sadly. You can try maybe one more time. Unfortunately, it's not gonna work as well. Gonna start with takes and then bishop f6, stopping any 95 ideas, trying to activate. And then important to like really make a loft. When opponent has no frets and you have everything that you could ever imagine for, you really want to be making a loft. So a move like h5, something like that is very nice. However, he still has a bit of a threat. Okay, actually, I feel like I just need to come back with a queen at this point. Maybe, yeah, I think actually I'm gonna do something very risky, which I think it's best move, but probably pretty difficult. I'm gonna try to play a bit more energetic. Rook ct, threatening to take. You should have played knight h2. Now I'm just winning free piece. I just did this because we're going like a little bit down on the clock. Should still be like relatively manageable, but shouldn't have gotten to this point. He cannot take the pawn because rook covers it, and now we also have like rook g3 ideas, exploiting the pin. I don't think he really has a way to defend mate, and I would guess we should be in time to convert this one. I don't really see any potential tricks for my opponent, either that or, yeah. Queen h3 would have been made. So, yeah, what I really want you to take away from this game is the fact that, well, opponent plays b4. This doesn't necessarily mean you just need to play e6 and defend, like he's gonna go b5 and that is gonna be like the end of the world. No, not really. You wanna instead focus on your own threats. So I think knight f5 is a great move. Wait a second, I see the bot is going kind of crazy. Okay, so the bot actually likes staking and then knight f5. With like a similar idea, it's just a little bit more precise. Computer highlights the fact that white has only moved to save the pawn, which is knight bd2. Believe me, not a lot of your opponents will come up with that idea. So it would have been a little bit more accurate to take on f3, so he won't be in time with this. But yeah, the way it happened, yeah, bishop e7, I'm giving him the same option once again. I could have already gone bishop takes and queen b6, just literally cashing in onto the d4 pawn. I could have done that immediately. Yeah, I didn't realize we just win the pawn by force. I mean, I was just already satisfied with just developing. I play bishop e7, but then, I mean, if you really ask for it, okay, fine. We're gonna go for it, and yeah, just by that typical theme, how you're gonna be winning most of your advanced Caro games if you're below 1800, around that level. I mean, 1800 maybe a little bit exaggerated, but specifically below 1500. You play c5, they go c3, and then at some point you just win their central pawns, and you just have to exchange the pieces and make it into the endgame. So, yeah. With that being said, I think yeah, we can just move on to the following game. All right, everybody, getting another Caro-Kann game. We're going d5, and we do get to see the fantasy. Little does my opponent know, he is about to get checkmated in 7 moves. In case he plays DE, watch out. It's true, they can play worse moves, as we already covered in the in-depth fantasy guide that I have. I highly advise you check out that long video. It is like pretty long, I agree, but it kind of has everything you really need to know to just destroy the fantasy. And it's coming from somebody that has a course on how to play the fantasy variation on the white side, so I do know quite a bit of stuff about it. Now, c3 definitely typical mistake. He will just probably get a losing position soon after DE. Normally, they just do this and recap, which is huge blunder already. Okay, he's not gonna get mated, but we're gonna start checking. He's forced to move the king as g3. This is, by the way, the move that people overlook. So you wanna, after e5, this becomes a thing. So yeah, now Lucy. King goes for a walk because g3 allows, yeah, I don't even know if this has a name, but just pick up the rook in really juicy fashion. And on king e2, now king is going for a walk. Yeah, definitely not a good sign for my opponent. Okay, now we need to talk a little bit to his king. Now, bishop g4 may look very tempting. He does have knight f3 to block, so I think it's simplest and best to just pick up the pawn with check. Yeah, now, okay, the queen does not move like a knight, but I wanted to show that. So, king to f2. All right, this is the position that you are probably going to get just by watching the video. How do we win? Sure, it's nice, we get the winning position, but I always lose. All right, I get that. Now, we basically just win by playing simple chess and applying very basic concepts like trying to finish development. So we start with this knight. Why? Well, first of all, tactical ideas, knight g4, maybe quick mate, also preparing to develop bishop and we get castle. So finishing development is always key. And against bishop to d3 type of stuff, check is an option. Knight g4 is an option. Of course, you kind of want to calculate a little bit before making your move. Or we can also play something a bit simpler, like queen d5. Sure, it's not having a threat, but it is a pretty simple move to make. d5, I think allows a pretty strong move. So you can try to pause the video and think about that. I think it's very likely to happen, by the way, since I was about to say opponents in this rating range generally go for captures whenever it's possible. Does not end up happening, but yeah, on DE5, I think checking would have been very powerful. Developing while gaining time. It's really something that you wanna master. It will really take your rating above 1000 at least if you get good at this thing, which is, okay, just trying to develop while gaining time. Because you can win most of these games by development. Now, he's pinning me, so he's got some ideas. I'm just gonna make this move to unpin. Bishop e7 viable too, but bishop may be a little bit loose after we castle there. So bishop e6 just because it's very well defended. And pardon me, it looks like he just got forked. That's a pretty funny mechanism to fork your opponent by unpinning. I mean, we do have it on the board. So move 10, fantasy getting absolutely destroyed. I mean, just think about it. How many games you had to lose in the fantasy until you start playing f3 e5? Now, I'm gonna be honest, objectively, this is not the best variation. It is what I'm gonna give in my upcoming course on Chessable. It is just a little bit inferior, okay, like plus 0.4 for white with best play, something like that, if they follow very tough and computerish lines to play, which if you're like below 1800, you should not be worried about. Definitely try this out. Whenever I show this line to like one of my students, they just get an instant win. Telling you, it's facts. By the way, I might have made a small mistake because he has bishop c2. I was not really paying attention. So, yeah, I should probably uh, try to listen to my own advice and stop making mistakes. I mean, this proves that I'm just a normal person. Yeah, just putting my pens one nipple at a time, just like you do. So, just gonna try to get castled. Maybe throwing knight g4. Yeah, pretty awkward. We're about to lose that pawn on e4. That's not part of the plan. But yeah, we should also. Um, yeah, I think that's a good move. I think bishop b4 it's important because it's kind of developing while still keeping the extra pawn. So knight e4, bishop e1 is critical because it comes with a check. Also making room for castle, king castle long too. Yeah, now this may become a threat. Not if I like castle. Short. But taking maybe something that I want to play. No, I'm just going to castle. Okay, he still cannot take. Like take bishop e1. He doesn't have a good discovery. Plays 95, just kind of panicking, I think. Can literally take twice. And I don't see the point of his previous move. Now I can take, which is simplest. I could have played bishop c5 as well if I wanted to be cheeky. I think taking is a bit better. Maybe knight g4. I could start with a check too. He may block, but if he blocks, we have knight g4, strong move. So I like check, and then we can combine it with perhaps this nice pattern. That's like not only threatening the fork, but it's just like ending his career on the spot because of queen takes on h2 mate. So yeah, move 18. Ready to resign. By the way, I don't have much time left on the clock, only 28 seconds, but should be quite enough to finish this game in time, considering the fact that he literally has to give up the queen not to get mated. Yeah, that's usually a good sign when you can win your opponent's queen. I mean, you can start being a little bit more optimistic about your chances. They still lose, but hey, at least you can tell your friends that you lost from a winning position, so you're still making progress. And we're gonna get the checkmate on the board. So, yeah, I'm curious. Not sure if, yeah, like the chess.com coach doesn't flag any mistakes. Curious though, like what the engine thinks. I feel like I made it a little bit easy on him. No, queen f5 was actually best move. 97, 97 reasonable. Apparently bishop d6 was way stronger, threatening bishop takes on h2. I felt like 97 ideas to castle long were interesting, but even this with bishop to b4. Wait, how's 94 bishop takes e1 not good for me? I mean, I don't get it. I'm up for full exchange. Why is this even? Okay, he still has 94, but I don't quite get why. Oh, because my queen can get trapped. Huh. Okay, that was a funny line. So in fact, this was kind of like maybe only inaccuracy to castle. Was a bit better to take his knight and castle. I'm curious what the game review for. Not that it really matters, but curious to see what the game review for this game was specifically. Got like an 83. Opponent got like 59, dude. All right, that was. I think that was like pretty reasonable game. On our end, literally the main takeaway is e5 against the fantasy. Check out the long video that I have on it. And after c3, very common mistake, by the way, take, and they will forget about this key idea, which is literally gonna give you an advantage, which is like -2. And if you ask me, a lot of free wins against the fantasy. So with that being said, I think we can move on to the following game. All right, everybody, getting another game with the black pieces, and this time we're facing a 1600. So I think it might be the highest rated opponent of the climb so far. And against d5, when you play knight c3, you're kind of committed to playing like the two knights or the d4 move, or maybe sidelines like queen f3 or queen e2. ED is just leading to a worse version of the exchange. So that is definitely a very good sign to see that 1600 rated players basically have no idea on how to actually deal with the Caro-Kann. Still see like same opening as what you would see as a 1000, just they go for like these kind of like taekwondo bishops. He's just like ready to karate me right now. Not gonna take the bait. Okay, just if it comes down to fighting, I know to run pretty fast. So hey, might be a coward move, but it is pretty healthy. So on f3, just gonna slide back. This is the idea. Not particularly afraid of taking, because that's literally his most important piece. So giving it away for the knight is definitely quite okay for us. Now, just need to stay away from blundering the bishop. And typically, I like to answer it with h5, just not giving him any space. I don't care about like attacking him. That's really not how we are gonna be winning this game. The way we're gonna be winning this game, it's basically, I think he'll castle long, and then we'll get some kind of attack with the c file. Whenever opponent is like castling long in the exchange variation, it's already close to like a -1 position, but gotta be a little bit careful here. I think rook c8 is good, and on takes, important, do not play the ultra natural queen f6, because there is knight takes on d5. See, he's going for it. This is really dirty trap. 95, exploiting the fact that I'm pinned. So point was to take with a pawn. Okay, it's like, sure, maybe it looks a little bit strange, but we need to adapt. Like, you guys all know this quote that the human is the most adaptable animal. So this is exactly what we're gonna do here by taking with a pawn. Okay, taking back with the rook, so we keep access onto this open file, and we also have ideas to like bring the bishop in this kind of like sneaky way. Queen b5, yeah, taking a pawn, that's not like such a big problem. Just gonna go queen c7, which is basically protecting b7 while perhaps creating some threats in the future on the c file. Okay, let's ask this queen, what's up? Why are you why are you on this side of the board? You're not supposed to be here. Okay, just gonna play b5, which is something that we would have gone for anyways, but because of the poorly placed queen, we just do it by gaining a tempo. So b4, literally winning a piece, because guess what? The knight cannot really move since knight a4. Do not forget about the bishop. There's rook c2. Ends the game. Already expect resignation from my opponent. Nice thing! When you get to climb, opponents will start resigning more often, which is kind of funny, but it is how it happens. So just gonna take the free knight. He takes rook is pinned, so would be an idea to go check and castle. I think that's exactly what we're gonna do here. Yeah, I see nothing better. King b1 expected, and then we castle. Goes g8. We can just like move the bishop. No need to like recapture. Bishop is important, staying on this diagonal on takes. So yeah, just bishop here. Check. It's like really pointless. It's maybe some people will scare of this. We really have this bishop pair that's making our king immortal. Is that the elixir of never getting old? So boom, just bring this. Oh, Rook there. Still, like, give him 3 moves. What is he gonna be threatening? Nothing. Can already start with moves like this. I mean, Rook B8, pretty cunning as well. I think this is the deadliest. Just preparing Rook C3. You can double up. We don't care. Pick up free knight. Whatever. It is whatever at this point with the extra piece, ultra safe king, and huge attack. So it is literally everything that you can wish from a position. And keep in mind, opponent 1600 in blitz, equivalent of someone that's like maybe 1900 rapid. So just by following these standard rules, applying these basic concepts, no matter like what rating your opponent has, if they play poorly, you're just gonna win. It's chess gods don't care about your rating. It's like you can be whatever. 2000. If you play poor moves, you will probably get punished. However, good news is that if you're still within 14, 1500, typically you need to make like at least five really bad moves in order to get punished. So there's decent room for error. That's like the fun part about it. So finally, I managed to get rid of his queen, so he's dropping c2. And we are gonna be getting a checkmate, like it this way. So yeah, not really much we can add about this game. Opponent that my opponent just chose the let's say not the best path. He went for let's say long castle. If it's like basically you need to take a career decision while you're like 14 or something, like people like normal people, I don't know what is like the best move here to come up with an analogy. So normal people would play knight h3, knight f4, keep the king in the middle. That is people that decide to prioritize school. And there is also other people that decide to become professional chess player, that go long castle, which is way worse. Just really, really bad. That is basically me there, long castling. Except I would never long castle in this position. So, yeah, that made absolutely no sense. But hey, I guess this is why you already subscribed to the channel. So, he castled. Basically, that was kind of the biggest mistake, let's say. And critical point here, we dodged a bullet because Queen f6 95 would have really turned the table. Just look at the eval bar. It's like +4 already. So make sure to watch out for your opponent's frats. And so as long as you don't blunder something like huge, you'll be really doing okay in this rating range. So with that being said, I think we can really move on to the following game. All right, everybody, looks like we're about to get another card game. And the opponent plays d4. So already something that we can highlight is the fact that people that are around 1400, getting close to 1500, pretty much respect opening principles. Most of my opponents are playing d4 in the second move. They just go ahead and grab the center. So nothing like rocket science yet, but I think something to keep an eye on. Okay. Opponent goes for the advanced variation, gonna be going for c5, which will be the main recommendation in my upcoming chessable course on the Caro-Kann. Opponent plays c3, which is what you're about to get for like half of your games. Yeah, other alternatives, dc and knight f3, both around like 20%. Other than that, crappy moves like bishop e3, f4, whatever weird stuff your opponent feels like playing, maybe check. So, but of course, gonna be having them all in the course. But for now, we'll just stick to like the main stuff. Knight c6, common is knight f3 and bishop b5. Yeah, on dc5 there's knight e5. I'd expect also maybe f4 or bishop e3. Those are like the other two moves that I could get. Bishop e2, interesting line given by Anish Giri in his lifetime repertoire. Definitely something pretty tricky that I like to recommend as white. On bishop to e3, this is a very interesting spot because the best move objectively is knight h6. And that is already given in many Caro-Kann courses like Sielecki course, um, Gotham chess course, and Chesley, of course. He also gives knight h6. But I feel like, I don't know, if you find yourself below 1500, you may be having a bit of a harder time recognizing when knight h6 is getting played, and maybe it's a little bit harder to remember. So in my course, I'm gonna be giving an alternative that's like objectively a bit inferior to that, but still you're gonna get like an equal position that I just find easier to play. So I'm gonna recommend cd4 whenever you cannot play bishop g4, and just have in the back of your mind that you can go cd, play bishop f5, on bishop d3 just exchange bishops, then we can play 4e6, and then knight e7, knight f5 when bishops have been traded off. Now, if let's say bishop was still on f5, we could have definitely considered knight to c8, knight b6, which is an idea that I've showed already previously on the channel. So if you're new, make sure to check out the Caro-Kann rating climb that we're making, because this is not like single video, it's a series that we are making, taking a fresh account from 500, getting it to like 2000 at least. In the past, we already got one to 2500. So bishop to e7, getting castle, just an equal position, not like much going on. I'll just try to make common sense moves, and hopefully we'll be able to get some pressure against my opponent. Now I can castle. That's definitely a thing. Am I worried about g4? Somewhat. I mean, I don't think it's that scary, but I'm just gonna play h5. I think it's a nice idea to keep in mind whenever he, let's say, can perhaps just go ahead and try to push these pawns in your face. You can get your pawn all the way to like h4 and then still like castle safely. Sometimes you can also go g6 and castle by hand. This is more of like a sort of tricky, subtle idea. I'm specifically afraid of maybe g4 because his knight is not on f3. Like with a knight on e2, has an easier time pushing. So it's just something that you want to be aware of. Okay, I could have also played rook c8, just being very nice, useful move as well. He plays h3, maybe an indicator that he's pushing g4. I don't know at this point. Or he may be playing queen f3, which is supporting g4, but it is definitely blundering something. So this is the time to pause the video and try to come up with the best move for black, because queen f3 is actually blundering the most important thing in white's position. It is like literally top of the iceberg, maybe bottom of the iceberg. You get it. Pawn on d4. So yeah, we're just gonna go ahead and grab. Not sure exactly what he was about to do with this queen f3 move, but I will cash in the free pawn, and whenever you cash in the free pawn, this is important because it's a common mistake that I see in my students' games. Dude, you just like did the job. It's like you finished, go back home. It's what? You finish like your work, you stay there for like 8 hours, and then what? You're gonna like hang out for an extra hour or something, just chill out, do some more work? No, dude, you finished your work, go home. Like, enjoy your wife, relax. Knight b5 definitely runs into queen b6, which I was about to highlight. And this is strong because it's also creating like a pretty annoying pin. Okay, now why is actually important that you just leave the area immediately after the job is done? It's like, I mean, what are you gonna do? Just stay at work casually, having conversation with like your co-workers? I mean, you're gonna be very vulnerable. What if your boss sees you? You're gonna find some more tasks to do. Just wanna run away. Knight f5. Okay, fine. Just evaporate instantly. Okay, queen a4. Now, we literally just need to avoid the double check, because that's Pretty painful. Double check is trouble. So gonna castle. And then having the extra pawn, completely winning position, even though it's only a pawn, you may be saying, but it's an important pawn, and white really doesn't have any threats. So what are we gonna play in this position? Okay, let's look at what's his most annoying piece. It's really the knight on b5, most active. Get rid of it immediately. By the way, knight a7 was losing to rook a8. And on knight c3, I think just gonna be going for the simplest. And gonna play queen d4. Offering queen trade. I'm gonna speed up a little bit just because we only have 45 seconds left. Whenever you have extra pawn, yeah, trade queens. You will typically find yourself in a situation where you win this d4 pawn against the advance. So make sure to always just take you with the queen, go for the endgame. It is basically very simple to play, very hard to mess things up as well. So, okay, just gonna infiltrate now that he allows it. Bishop e3, gonna slide back. Bishop c3, that loses to the fork. So yeah, just here, putting pressure, preparing to bring the other rook into the game, slowly expanding. Like a typical mistake people will make while having this type of positions, they'll try to queen the pawn immediately. That's not how it works. Just gotta like improve your pieces first and only like a little bit later try to convert. Yeah, I'm just gonna play bishop c5, get rid of this sort of annoying piece. Rook endgames are always drawn, as Akiba Rubinstein once said, but kind of doubt that you know that name, so we will just ignore the saying for now. And yeah, the important thing to remember, however, is the point that by the way, rook c1, we have a cute trick. I'm still gonna let it happen, so hopefully he plays there. It's a very instructive idea that we can highlight. I'm still just waiting for him to allow that. Hopefully he will play rook c1 because it's really the most natural move in the position. Okay, opponent just refusing to play it. Maybe he just knows the trick. He just won't let me play it. Yeah, important thing to understand is that, well, we have all the pawns defended. So it's gonna be a relatively easy win most of the time. It's gonna trade the rook. Okay, trading, oh, he has to play rook c1 now. If he finds that, that's a good find. Allowed a bit of counterplay. Not sure I'm gonna be in time with like 9 seconds to finish this. Okay, gonna hide, gonna push. Gonna basically trade these pawns and then I'm gonna have 2 connected pawns. Gonna do like a little bit of pre-moving, get the rook behind, play f6, e5, king e6. Oh, gotta take that. Cannot allow it like that. e5, king e6, king f5, maybe check him, king f4. I should get the rook back where it was because it was kind of optimally placed. Then push the pawns, maybe fork him. Okay, he didn't allow the fork. That was good play by him. Rook g2. Okay, he had a hanging rook for a second there. Bit of panic moments. Okay, and that is checkmate that we managed to get on the board. So we definitely had some tense moments at the end there. I mean, one thing that I wanted to mention. Okay, basically what is happening when we play this variation. If they go bishop d3, exchanging bishops is easy. In case they go for, let's say, something like bishop e2, the idea that I wanted to highlight is that you can maneuver the knight around. And you may be wondering, why do we need to get this knight all over the queen side? Well, let's actually talk a little bit about the position. Yeah, let's say, okay, just make another move. Yeah, say white makes a luft, we castle. If you assess the position, it is pretty clear that because white has this pawn center, they have more space on the queen side. I mean, I completely butchered that. I meant to say on the king side. So they will typically try to do something like this, playing on that side of the board. So this being white's stronger side, we're pretty unlikely to do any damage there. So this is why instead of having the knight from b6 on like g6, where it's like kind of okay, maybe you can argue that it's putting some pressure on e5, maybe you can have ideas to break with f6. That could work. But with the knight on b6, this is actually really clever because we're about to play on the queen side anyways. So after rook c8, knight a5, knight c4, let's say your opponent takes, you can recapture back with a knight, making it pretty uncomfortable for him to defend the b2 pawn. So this is a very nice little idea that you can keep in the back of your mind whenever white does something like slightly offbeat, like bishop e3, which is not allowing you to get the standard positions after the bishop g4 pin. So that is ideal. If they, let's say, avoid it, then you just know, well, it can kind of always go cd, bishop f5 with an even position. Now, of course, we were not winning by force, like we just took advantage of big blunder by our opponent. But okay, what is really the goal of our opening? We just try to get a solid position. We're like fine with a draw. Let's say if opponent plays well, you cannot really beat him if he doesn't make any mistakes. But typically, this rating range, they just make unforced errors like this one, queen f3, just gifting the game on the spot. We take the free pawn, then yeah, I had to rush a little bit with not much time, but critical idea, having extra pawn, go for the end game, and that should be pretty handy. So yeah, I think that's basically what I wanted to highlight about this game. Just one little detail, in case opponent goes bishop to b5, threatening dc, critical idea to remember queen a5. This is best move, also what I'm going to be giving in my course. So remember this, we showed it in the past on the channel, but I noticed people generally fail to remember this idea. So with that being said, I think we can move on to the following game. Alright everybody, getting another black game. I'm gonna be sticking with the Caro-Kann, and when they go knight f3, it's usually a sign of the fact that they're still completely clueless, even as 1500 rated players, and I'm gonna be sticking with the main way of developing. Yeah, get the pin if you can. Knight to f6, e6, bishop e7. On h3 is always fine to take in the exchange when knight is on c3, so we're gonna be doing that. The whole point of actually playing this variation is just making sure our king is safe, and then we're just gonna be having a free initiative thanks to the semi-open c file. So see why bishop e7 is so effective in this opening is because he's not gonna get any pressure. So we can already start questioning his existence by playing h6. The bishop is gonna be very much pointless on that diagonal. Rook goes onto the open file, and there is one pretty important idea that you need to understand about this type of positions. There's basically, I would say, like two big categories, with a knight on c3 or with a pawn on c3. Against the knight on c3, knight a5, knight c4 is the most powerful idea. Against the pawn on c3, you typically want to break with b4. So you can already go ahead and do that, but a6, b5, it's always useful to include. So we're gonna start with that first. Stop rushing with queen b6. Always play queen b6 before. Okay, I actually meant to say after pushing the pawns, because queen to b6 will be typical mistake because it's sort of blocking your fundamental plan of delivering the minority attack. Yes, I mean, maybe sometimes works if it's like concrete and wins a pawn, but I know people just rush with this, which is gonna backfire like half of the games. So a6, b5, always proper way, and bishop e5 can just already get rid of that piece. However, it's not putting any pressure, so I can just very well ignore it. If it was a knight, I'd probably trade, but bishop not doing much at all. Just gonna go ahead and put pressure on the queen side. Remember, this is literally the key idea when you're facing knight on c3. Going double attack. When I'm just completely defenseless, I'm just stealing this point. It's like taking the candy from a baby. We're literally making no effort. And as you can see, we're like starting to face opponents that are, yeah, having a decent rating. I mean, 1500 in Blitz, that's like equivalent of 1800 in Rapid. By the way, always take with a rook if you can. Knight a2, just collect another free pawn. I mean, to me, just the fact that you can win this type of game so effortlessly with the black pieces, it's kind of insane. I don't think it really is that simple by playing other openings. And I'm not really saying this just because I play the Caro-Kann. Okay, I can play any opening. And I played many openings on the channel before. Like we have Rating Climb with a French defense as well. But man, these games with the Caro-Kann, they are just like so one-sided. It's almost like not fair. Okay, don't blunder the bishop, so just gonna go back home. We managed to steal the pawns. Just go back, make sure your king is safe. With 3 extra pawns, we're more than happy to trade as many pieces. And yeah, just can do queen a5. Bit of a strange move maybe because I'm facing his rook. So just gonna go like queen d7, preparing to bring the rook. In case he takes my rook, I think I'm gonna take with a d pawn because we want to get this like nice 3 connected passers. I mean, 3 extra connected passers. What kind of opening will ever give you that? It's like, man, the Caro-Kann, you're literally breaking the matrix. I don't know. You guys let me know in the comments if there is one opening even remotely close to this. And I promise I'm going to be making a rating climb with it. So just going to go queen d5. I'm like happy to give up 1 pawn just to get rid of the queens. Without queens on the board, any hope of counterplay will disappear. So activating the knight, these pawns are worth more than a rook basically at this point. Yeah, I'm just gonna take and yeah, trust me, I can evaluate how winning a position is better than Romanian agents can evaluate real estate. So I just moved recently, so that's why I came up with this bad joke. They're actually pretty terrible, but we're not gonna get into that. Let me know your funny stories if you have any with your real estate agents. So yeah, critical mistake of this game. No mistake really. It's he didn't blunder. It's just his position sucked because he had no opening, and yeah, already kind of lost this game on move 5 because the knight was misplaced. Only important thing we had to do, just develop our pieces by the book. Take on f3, go rook c8, a6, b5. There's just template moves and kind of important decision it feels like not to take because it's a juicy move to play, but yeah, it's like that knight can be used better on the queen side, I felt like. And even if, let's say, he didn't play queen d2, I feel like he's defenseless at this point already. Like, maybe, sure, it could be better to play bishop e2 so that he can eliminate a knight, but still, go queen b6, rook c8, a5, b4. You have, like, huge pressure on the queen side. He'll probably just lose the c2 pawn sooner or later, so... After queen d2, that was definitely a way to come back in the game, and... yeah, with that being said, I think we can just move on to the following game. Getting another black game, facing opponents that are almost 1500. So, gonna be sticking with a Caro-Kann, and when they begin with knight f3, it is typically gonna be an exchange. And on the check, I think easiest is just to play bishop d7. Nothing wrong with developing the knight, but bishop move definitely simplest. And I've noticed in the Lichess database while preparing this for my upcoming Caro course that this move just scores way better, like taking with a knight. It's not like any better objectively if you compare it to queen takes, but for some reason this just has a way better win rate. So I'm gonna stick with it, and the point will be, I'm just doing this, maybe I play bishop d6 now, stopping bishop f4. Point is to get the bishop on this diagonal. Now, if you've been binge watching the Caro-Kann rating climb, you know that against the exchange, I typically say, okay, just go knight f6, bishop e7, so you're safe against bishop g5. So now that the knight is already placed on d7, protecting f6, we no longer need the bishop to do that job, so we can use it for a more active task. And now if he plays bishop g5, we don't really care because the knight safely defends it. Can move the queen, and it's just like very easy to play. Rook c8 next is a very typical idea. Could already play b5, start the minority attack. When he plays b3, this pawn remains definitely weaker, so can start targeting it immediately. Onto, let's say, rook c1. I think we already had a pretty strong move. Maybe similar idea on, on queen to c2. I would say, the main point here, as long as you start putting pressure on the c3 pawn, you should be doing pretty well. There's many ways of doing that. Probably queen c7 is the most precise, just because of the fact that rook c1 looks like defends the pawn, but it's actually blundering, and he does not even play it. So opponent literally missed this. Point was that on rook c1, black has the winning move, which you can try to find by pausing the video. And point there, no, it's not b4. You don't even get the wooden spoon for that because he just says c4. But we have bishop a3, rook forced to move, and then we pick up c3. So black would have been winning. Now we just literally take that pawn for free. Take back, rook c1. Okay, we're not gonna trade because he gets open file for free. We wanna trade in our terms, so we bring the other rook. We've got basically an extra pawn on e6 in a super symmetrical position. This should be a pretty straightforward win. I mean, I guess we can start with h6, creating a luft, making sure we don't get checkmated at some point. We get bishop pair. I mean, on knight e5, probably have to give back the bishop just so we can get rid of his annoying piece. And next we can use ideas like rook c2, I was about to say. Infiltrating even deeper. Now, on a4, taking is an option. I mean, he could be taking with a rook and getting a target, so I'm just going to keep it closed. I'm not like a huge fan of putting pawns on the same color as my bishop, but I think it should be reasonable here just because we're restricting his pieces. I'm going to play knight e4, which is connected with a bit of a tactical idea now that we're pretty much exchanging the main defender of the b3 pawn. So that, he goes for takes, and after knight e5, I think this is pretty simple. We don't have to give up the bishop, but I think should be a good move. Also, there is some point behind e3. I think both moves are kind of equally winning. I'm just going to stick with simple move here. Rook b3, king f1. Now I think rook a3 is a pretty clean way to convert. If he avoids, we just pick up both pawns. So, is it actually so clean? Has check at the end. Yeah, I think I might have messed this up a bit. He's gonna check me. I have only move. Okay, if he doesn't check, this is clearly a win. Gonna go f5 so my rook can leave. Rook d5, idea to bring the king, maybe rook d3. I wanna kind of push pawns on both sides, but when rook a3 happens, this is pretty instructive because it allows transition to a winning king and pawn endgame. It's like he will be able to win my pawn, but I already have another pawn, plus my king can go ahead and infiltrate. So watch this. I'm about to use my king. He lost like so much time running with his own king towards that side, while I can even infiltrate, try to do that. But it will be a little bit inaccurate. Like if you go king f3, king g2, he will do that. You take h2, we'll go king d6, and maybe if you miscalculate, he can take both pawns. So safest, just go e5, so he won't have any targets, and yeah, I can like easily win it in this type of fashion. Yeah, I would say like a clever way of playing it is just sort of shouldering away his king. Now he's trying to do that. I'm gonna go g5 and on king c1. Once again, we want to shoulder him. So then we just get to promote. Push the pawn and he gets like literally no counterplay. This is like the so-called body check. I think it's something that comes from hockey, even though, pardon me, I'm not a big expert on that. So about to pick up the h4 pawn, and then yeah, that's kind of how you're gonna be winning most of your games. Just yeah, take literally every single one of your opponent's pieces. You have king and queen or king and rook, and you made him. Easy. That's like easily doable for everybody. It's really not giving them much counterplay like at all. So ready to advance. Opponent may even go ahead and let his time run out because he has 3 minutes. I mean, at this point, I'm just gonna pre-move. Oh, looks like he is trying to make me fall asleep while perhaps he will, yeah, win some seconds, and he's just pretty much playing for time pressure. I mean, at this point, I think we can just pre-move the checkmate. You're pretty safe of typically doing something like this. I mean, it would be pretty funny if we stalemate, so just for content, I'm not even gonna look. But I have to say, I don't remember last time I stalemated with this construction. I never really studied, tricks like this, which are basically, okay, how do you win in the most efficient way if you have like 20 seconds? That's just something that kind of naturally, yeah, I picked that up naturally by watching streamers or, yeah, how other people win their games. But I haven't received any coaching on that topic or anything like that, in case you are wondering. So, uh, opponent is literally gonna let his time burn while we already have the whole thing pre-moved. I mean, people work hard for their rating, so he doesn't know he's gonna get a refund because this is an authorized chess.com account. So he's definitely putting up a fight. Maybe he's gonna survive with a draw. I mean, he is pretty close to 1500. So imagine if he was grinding like the whole day, one game away from 1500, and then he gets paired against us, and it's like 2 in the morning, and he needs to like get a mental reset, but then start losing like all the games. Get back to like 1450 or stuff like that. I mean, as a chess player, I do believe we've all been there at some point. Now, I was about to say that I wouldn't recommend playing too much in the morning. But hey, after this game, for sure, we're not going to be getting any sleep tonight. So, with that being said, I think we can really move on to the following game.